All right, kids. I want this election to be over. I just do. Presidential campaigns in these United States are way too long, and political ads only make this time of year longer. And the days seem so short. And I don't usually watch myself on YouTube, so I couldn't tell you what kind of commercials come on before or during this episode. But I hope
Bernie Moreno gets it.
A businessman would be better at fixing inflation.
I'm sorry. That was me. This platform didn't just give you a Bernie Moreno ad. I did. I'm an Ohioan. He's our problem. Hopefully not for long. Most of y'all were probably confused on why you just saw him saying how you're not even in Ohio and our Senate race has nothing to do with you. But even more of you will be watching this after Election Day and may already have disassociated because daylight savings time is here. Hillary Clinton made it clear 8 years ago when she said, every time Donald thinks things are not going in his direction, he claims whatever it is rigged against him. Well, what I didn't know then is that he wouldn't even need proof to back up his claims.
So why did we do Stop the Steal? Why did anyone go to January 6th? Why is anyone sitting in jail? Why did anything bad happen to anybody? Why did everyone get censored? Why is everything bad that has happened to the people that are involved, why did that need to happen if you're just going to walk it all back and say, oh, I lost? Well, it would have been good to know that.
That was far-right activist, neo-Nazi, and who Representative Matt Gaetz wanted to look like before he sat in a makeup chair, Nick Fuentes, pretty much admitting that he believed the 2020 election was stolen by President Joe Biden because Trump said so. That's it. Now, you should know that this man, Machine Gun Incelli, just said a few days ago that Trumpism is a cult and liberals are right. That take from Nick Fuentes took place after Trump acknowledged that he, quote, lost by a whisker, which is something 45 seems to let slip here and there.
But Sherrod Brown said no way.
Sherrod worked with Democrats and Republicans.
Sorry, wrong one.
I lost by I didn't lose, but they say I lost, Joe.
I'm not sure of how many times we'll come back to clips like that one, but we will, because what Donald says to Joe Rogan, as well as what he doesn't say, is telling. With that in mind, and political pundits promoting election fraud in spite of evidence, and 45 primed to say things are rigged against him, again, this time around, let's focus on who Trump falsely blamed for stealing the 2020 election and who he will pin a loss on in 2024 and into the future. Donald Trump's blame game. As you're about to see, it's the same people who he thinks likes him and relate to him because he's a criminal. Let's start with the cities of Philadelphia, Detroit, and Atlanta. These metropolises are in swing states that Donald Trump lost to Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election. And they just so happen to be predominantly black. 42.3, 78.6, and 52% black, respectively. Trump and his administration challenged the legitimacy of the votes in those cities, even going as far as suing the counties that they're in. He demanded a recount in Milwaukee County, not the entire state of Wisconsin, a swing state that he lost. No, he focused on where 27% of the population is black. If a business or college singled out black folk this much, Republicans will call it DEI. I wonder what the difference is.
If you take a look at Wisconsin, they virtually admitted that the election was rigged, robbed, and stolen. They wouldn't give access in certain areas to the ballots because the ballots weren't signed. They weren't originals. We could go into this stuff. We could go into the ballots or we could go into the overall. I'll give you another one.
Are you going to present this ever?
Trump didn't present how Wisconsin virtually admitted that their election was rigged. He didn't go into the ballots or into the overalls. That's got to involve teenage girls at beauty pageants, I'm sure of it. If I may, I would like to put faces, names, and voices to him demonizing the black vote.
I've been having terroristic threats. I've been having harassing phone calls and emails, and they came out and made a police report yesterday. Last night, about 10 minutes after 9, somebody was banging on the door, and now somebody's banging on the door again. Oh, they screaming. He's still banging on the door.
According to Reuters, the Trump campaign alleged that Wandrea Shea Moss and mother, Ruby Freeman, cheated 45 by pulling fake ballots from suitcases hidden under tables at a ballot counting center. After Trump and his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, named this family, MAGA began to threaten, harass, intimidate, and terrorize these women.
I have over 75 text messages and, like I said, over 300 emails, and I had to shut down my Facebook account. They're tagging my friends and saying, you know, your friend do that. You know, it's horrible, it's scary. Because they're saying stuff like, we're coming to get you, you know, we're coming to get you. And you know, what kind of bird are you? Jailbird, you get it? You know, different, all kind of stuff.
The daughter and mother, one a clerical worker and the other a temporary ballot counter, received death threats while Trump and his supporters attacked the legitimacy of Georgia's election, which Biden won by 11,779 votes. The whole, I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have because we won the state of it all. Moss and Freeman were forced to go into hiding, leaving Fulton County. Again, very black population. See, what's lost in the midst of the Democrats cheat this and big cities that was Biden won in large part due to the suburbs. Quote, Biden won because he was able to build on the traditional Democratic strength in the big cities by expanding his support into the suburban areas right outside of them. There wasn't any grand conspiracy by big city machines. Trump simply got beat because suburban voters were tired of him. The Trump campaign did sue and seek recounts in a handful of predominantly white suburban counties in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. However, in Michigan, they focused only on Wayne County and Detroit, not predominantly white suburban counties such as Washtenaw and Ingham. And with all the massive voter fraud, irregularities, and anomalies talk coming from the right out in public, Trump's lawyers seem to remember that they had licenses to maintain when talking to judges in private. In November of 2020, Maricopa County, Arizona, where 30% of the population is Hispanic or Latino, Trump attorney Corey Langhofer stressed the plaintiffs were not alleging fraud or that anyone is stealing the election, simply raising concerns about a limited number of cases involving good faith errors. Around that same time, in Pennsylvania, Trump campaign attorney Jonathan S. Goldstein said twice, when put on the spot and asked if he was alleging fraud, quote, to my knowledge, at present, no. Same thing happened to Linda Kearns and Rudy Giuliani, who under questioning from a judge said, this is not a fraud case. Giuliani was disbarred in New York. Sidney Powell, Kenneth Chesebro, and Jenna Ellis flipped on Trump, pleading guilty for racketeering and may be shut down due to election tampering in Georgia. I forgot to mention earlier, Trump gained votes from 2016 to 2020 in the mostly black cities that he was suing, and he was definitely trying to find votes, overturn results, and pursue fake electors, which is fraud. Trump's lies aren't some victimless crime. They come with consequences that he himself possibly won't face. However, and I can't stress this enough, others will. This applies to his former favorite source for stats, facts, and figures.
Incredible new documentary. It's called 2,000 Mules.
I hope everybody saw 2,000 Mules. I hope everybody saw it.
Whether you look at 2,000 Mules,
look at 2,000 Mules. Look at what they did with that. Thousands and thousands and thousands of votes on tape, on camera. They made it almost impossible to get a copy of 2,000 Mules. He did it. Dinesh did a great job on that.
When claiming that an election was stolen from him, the former, maybe future president of the United States cited a documentary. And not just any documentary, one done by Dinesh D'Souza, guilty of breaking campaign finance law in 2014, and a man who Trump pardoned and believes Donald has street cred due to having a mugshot, but Dinesh also has a mugshot and got no juice whatsoever. Salem Media Group, who distributed 2,000 Mules, the most debunkable documentary ever, I could devote an entire episode to it alone, recently apologized to Mark Andrews, a black man and voter from Georgia who was shown in 2,000 Mules simply delivering ballots for members of his family, which is legal in Georgia. But 2,000 Mules made that action out to be a sinister plot between left-wing nonprofits who weren't named in the documentary and what they call mules, who conspired to traffic ballots. Dinesh said he relied on data from True to Vote, who ended up telling Georgia officials that they don't have any names or other documentary evidence to share. Where have we heard that before? The Georgia Bureau of Investigation cleared Mark Andrews of any wrongdoing. Heard it all before. After Andrews faced threats of violence from the far right. Heard it all before. By the way, Ohio, you've heard of True to Vote before.
Bernie Moreno, the conservative outsider ready to fight for Ohio's...
My apologies.
For example, in Ohio, those districts where President Obama was successful, 9 out of 13, and they challenged legitimate voters over and over again.
We have reached out to True the Vote for their reaction to your allegations against them, and we have not heard back from them. I know that...
And you probably won't, because the head of True the Vote has already said she wants a Republican administration.
You can't find 2000 Mules, the documentary, or the book written with it at all anymore. And if you can, it's heavily altered from the original in order to reflect the lawsuits that people involved in lost. Where was I? The point of all of this is, you would think that Trump would have readily available information to prove that the election was truly stolen from him when he agreed to be interviewed by Joe Rogan on his podcast that has 18 million subscribers on YouTube alone and earned 44 million views as of me writing this and was uploaded a few weeks before the election. Instead, all we got is this.
2020 elections. You say you have all this evidence that it was rigged. Why haven't you put this evidence in a consumable form? In what?
Oh, I did. I have books on it. And by the way, books have been written on it. We have an author named Hemingway, who is a great writer. She wrote a book on it.
The book he's referring to is Rigged: How the Media and Big Tech and Democrats Seized Our Elections. And look, I don't want to generalize, but Trumpers cried censorship when there was an issue with Joe Rogan's interview with Trump on YouTube. But the only problem was Rogan and his team delisted it when a glitch from Spotify prevented it from being uploaded on both platforms simultaneously. Perhaps they should silence themselves. In her book, Rigged, Hemingway claimed that two groups met a man, Mark Zuckerberg, gave money to the Center for Technology and City Life and the Center for Election Innovation and Research, used those millions to infiltrate local election operations and push for as many Democrats as possible to vote by mail. Okay, it was a genius plan, and because no one ever imagined that a coordinated operation could pull off the privatization of the election system, no laws were built to combat it, per her. So she's admitting that no crime was committed. And according to Salon, by her own admission, all the groups did was reach out to voters to make sure they turned their ballots in on time, assist voters who needed to make sure their ballots were filled out correctly, work to reduce the lines at ballot boxes, and help voters figure out the mail-in ballot system. All the while, some GOP representative in Wisconsin was sending out fake ballots and got arrested for doing so. It's at this point that I need to show this picture. Everything is a conspiracy theory when you don't understand how anything works. Along with this one. No, that's a whole new sentence. What is you talking about? Because somebody somewhere is wondering about Hillary Clinton claiming election interference in 2016 as if the Russians meddled in our elections. And yeah, they did. Former FBI Director James Comey said so after he was fired by Trump to change the probe into Russia. H.R. McMaster, best name in the history of politics, and Trump's national security advisor told an international audience that the evidence of Russian meddling in the 2016 American election is beyond dispute. And didn't Bill Barr refuse to charge Trump with obstruction of justice when it came to the Mueller report? I don't remember. It's so much stuff and the days are shorter now. Hillary Clinton didn't come close to doing any of the things to votes or voters, including demonizing black people, that I've described here about Trump, who needs to win the 2024 presidential election or he'll be tried for trying to overthrow the 2020 election. If you ask Donald Trump's own son, Jr., if the 2020 presidential election was stolen, he'll point out what he believes is Joe Biden's ineptitude as proof. If you ask Donald Trump's running mate, Ohio's own J.D. Vance, if the 2020 presidential election was rigged, He would say he's focused on the future after talking about all the things Kamala Harris and Tim Walz did in the past. Convenient. He'll say he wouldn't have certified the 2020 election because he would have wanted to debate the outcome, not go through courts and district attorneys and judges. He has no evidence. Then there's people like Colin Rugg, co-owner of Trending Politics, seen here so proud that he can fit his daddy's coat, who questions how Joe Biden won 80% of what's known as bellwether counties. That is, 19 counties, mostly white, that voted for the winner of the presidential election every single time from 1980 to 2016. Everyone has their 2020 election opinion, but this is the one chart that to this day, I can't stop thinking about. For the past 70 years, the following bellwether counties you see below have successfully elected the US president until 2020, when the majority of bellwether counties voted for Trump, yet Biden ended up winning. This graph alone doesn't prove fraud, yet it does raise many questions that we weren't allowed to ask until recently. More victimhood. He has yet to hear a good explanation for the bellwether county discrepancy. Well, I found this article on, it says here, the internet, that explains what went on. Demographics play a major role in explaining why these once bellwether counties finally missed the mark in 2020. Furthermore, in 2016, when Trump made huge gains with white voters without a college degree, the margins in bellwether counties became substantially more Republican, even as the country only became a little more Republican. As you can see in this chart, says 538. Trump's strong performance in these counties didn't matter because of Biden's gains in the more highly educated suburbs of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I question why the Colin Ruggs of the world didn't keep that same energy when Trump stomped all over the Democrats' blue wall in 2016. The Great Lakes states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Black people, if Trump loses, he will blame us. I hope 2024 is where the sidewalk ends, or where the black sidewalk ends. Shel Silverstein is one of us, right? And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Republicans are ready to falsely blame immigrants and brown people. I mean, Trump said it was rigged when he lost the Iowa caucus to Rafael Cruz, Cuban. Why would anyone take his claim seriously? I want so badly to tell you that this is almost over. The 2024 presidential election, campaign ads, and cries of voter fraud. But I would be lying. And whether Trump wins, loses, gets locked up, dies, MAGA isn't going anywhere. After all, the Confederacy should have been done after 4 years. Yet, like a Detroit native said to 2 GOP members who refused to certify election results, y'all Confederates, you're not Republicans. Y'all should be aware of the fact that we're no longer going to sit around and let white people take advantage of black people. So, we're gonna be all right.
But Sherrod Brown's always been a voice for Ohio. He capped the cost of insulin.
Who do you think won the 2020 election?
I think Donald Trump did.
But why? Because there's kind of a lack of, evidence, right?
You know, it's the whole not being able to complete a sentence by the existing president, someone who can sit there and talk about losing his Corvette.
What about the 7 million votes? What about the 7 million votes?
Ending our American energy policy. It's about every failure imaginable from the Biden.
But what about all the lost court cases, though? Like all of them. So I just talked to Don Jr. I asked him who won the 2020 election. He said that his dad did, but then he didn't have any proof, and he started talking about all kinds of stuff that had nothing to do with the election at all. Hey, thanks for... Fucking asshole.